Have you ever looked around your life, at your busy schedule, your endless worries, your complicated relationships, and secretly wondered if you are missing something so simple and deep that it could change everything in a single moment? Have you ever had this strange feeling that maybe, beneath all your plans and failures and stories about yourself, there is a truth so light and open that if you really understood it, your whole way of seeing the world would never be the same again? Today, my friend, we are going to walk into one of the most famous and most misunderstood sentences in the entire history of Chen and Sun. It comes from the 6th patriarch Huineng, a man who was illiterate, poor, and unknown, who listened to a single line from a scripture while slaying firewood, and ended up shaking the entire world of Chinese Buddhism. The sentence we are talking about is this simple line: originally there is not a single thing. For many people, these words sound like poetry or philosophy or even nonsense. Some hear them and think, does it mean everything is empty? Nothing matters. Life is meaningless. Some hear them and turn it into a slogan to escape responsibility, saying, since originally there is nothing, why bother with effort? Why care about good or evil? Why practice at all? But if you follow the story of Huineng's life, if you listen to how this line was born and how he lived it, you will discover that originally not one thing is not a cool idea. It is a living key that can unlock your tightest knots, heal your deepest guilt, and free you from the heaviest stories you tell about yourself. It is not about denying the world. It is about seeing it so clearly that it loses its power to trap you. So, in this long video script, we are going to do several things together. We will walk slowly and vividly through the famous story of the verse contest between Unisex and Huineng, the two poems about polishing a mirror and having no mirror at all, and the moment when originally not one thing appeared like lightning. You will explore how most people live as if their mind were a dirty mirror that they must scrub forever, and how Huineng pointed directly to something even more radical: the mirror itself is an illusion. You will talk about what originally really means, what in not one thing really points to, and how this understanding does not destroy cause and effect but actually makes you more kind, more responsible, and more free. And we will bring this straight into your daily life, into your anxiety, into your perfectionism, into your sin, into your spiritual seeking, so that by the end, you do not just think this is a clever idea, but feel a new possibility in your chest, a loosening, a space, a breath you did not know you were holding. Imagine a small, dusty town in ancient China. Huineng Huineng is carrying bundles of firewood on his shoulders. He is a poor boy from the south. His father died early. He has no education. He cannot read or write. The society of that time would call him unrefined, unworthy of deep teaching. One day, while delivering firewood to Huineng, he hears someone reciting a line from the Diamond Sutra. Words fall on his heart like a bell. Something in him wakes up, asks where this teaching comes from. He is told about the 5th patriarch Huineng, far away in the north. Without money, without status, without any guarantee of being accepted, he walks hundreds of miles to seek the way. When he finally arrives at the monastery, he is sent to pound rice in the back courtyard. He is not given scriptures to study or a seat in the meditation hall. Everyone sees him as just a helper. He earspies. While he works, the monastery buzzes with talk of a succession. The 5th patriarch announces that whoever can write a verse expressing their understanding of the mind will inherit his robe and bowl, the symbol of the Dharma transmission. All of the monks think of Unisex, the head monk, the respected senior. Assume he will win. Unisex, however, feels unsure. At night, he writes a verse on the wall anonymously, not daring to sign it. His poem says, "The body is the factory. The mind is like a bright mirror stand. Constantly polish it, again and again. Do not let dust collect." The next day, everyone sees the verse and praises it. The patriarch says that those who practice according to this verse will benefit. But he does not hand over the robe. Instead, he says, this verse has not yet reached the ultimate. as the verse becomes the talk of the whole monastery. Someone recites it near the rice-pounding area. Huineng hears it and immediately recognizes that it is still incomplete. He cannot write. He asks someone to write his verse on the wall beside Chinki's. His poem says, "Odd originally has no tree. The bright mirror has no stand. Originally there is not a single thing. Where could dust collect?" Here it is. The line we are talking about rises right here, in the voice of a poor, uneducated rice pounder. Let us slow down this moment. Enki's verse represents the way most of us see our mind. Imagine a solid self, a permanent me, like a mirror, and that mirror, dust keeps settling, dust of anger, fear, jealousy, greed. Practice, we think, is the effort of constantly cleaning this mirror, wiping away the dust so that one day it will shine. This mindset sounds correct. It is full of discipline, effort, and seriousness, but it contains a hidden assumption that keeps us stuck. The mirror, that me, is a fixed thing. It must be protected and improved. It is the center of the universe. Huineng's verse is like a sword that cuts straight through that assumption. He says, "Maltha, the awakened mind, originally has no tree. There is no solid thing standing there that you can print to as enlightenment. The bright mirror has no stand." The very idea of a fixed mind like a mirror is itself a construction, and then the line that explodes the whole picture. Originally there is not a single thing. There is not even one solid thing. Where can dust line and stay? He is not saying there is nothing at all, like a dead bird. He is saying that everything you call thing is in truth a flowing process, empty of fixed self, and that your real nature is this open, spacious, shining awareness in which all these processes rise and pass. From this angle, dust and mirror are not two separate things. Thoughts, emotions, experiences appear and disappear within awareness. They do not stain some solid core to you because that solid core is itself an idea, a thought. If you really hear this, a completely different way of loving opens up. Instead of spending your whole life anxiously cleaning a mirror, blaming yourself for every speck of dust, you begin to question the mirror itself. Who is the tie that thinks it is broken, dirty, unworthy? Where is it, exactly? When you look for it in direct experience, all you find are sensations, memories, images, stories, all passing through. Let us be honest, most of us hear this and nod. We say, yes, emptiness, oh self, I have heard it. But then we go back to living as if we were the dirtiest mirror in the world. We obsess over our flaws. You replay mistakes for decades. We polish ourselves with self-help, spiritual practices, achievements, trying to become worthy of our own acceptance. We cling to identities. I am an anxious person. I am a failure. I am someone who was betrayed. I am the responsible one. I am the victim. I am the successful one. Each identity becomes a thing we hold on to. We suffer when anything threatens it. Originally not one thing is not asking you to deny your experiences. It is asking you to look more deeply into what you call yourself. Is there, anywhere, a fixed entity that has always been you from birth until now? If you look carefully, what you find is always changing. The child you were, the teenager, the adult, the moods, the roles. They are like waves on the surface of a sea. The sea itself cannot be captured as any particular wave. Huineng's insight did not stay on the wall. The fifth patriarch saw the verse, recognized its depth, and in a secret night meeting transmitted the robe and bowl to Huineng, telling him to flee because others would not accept a poor souvenir as patriarch. So the man who wrote originally not one thing did not become proud. He did not walk around showing off his understanding. He ran into the mountains, hiding among hunters for years, waiting until conditions ripened to teach. In those mountains, he worked, chopped firewood, walked with hunters, watched their lives. He did not separate spiritual life from ordinary life. The emptiness of in not one thing did not make the world unreal. It made it transparent. Every sound, every movement, every encounter appeared within the same open awareness. There was nowhere to fall outside of it. When he finally emerged and began teaching, People came with all kinds of questions. One person asked about purity and defilement. Huineng said, "In this very moment, without thinking of good or evil, what is your original face?" Another asked about meditation. Huineng said, "True meditation is not sitting like a stone. It is the clear, unmoving awareness in the midst of all movement." Every teaching they gave pointed back to the same living fact. Your true nature is not the bundle of thoughts and emotions you usually call me. It is the open, clear presence in which those thoughts and emotions appear. That presence is not a thing, cannot be stained by what passes through it. You might say, "This sounds beautiful in theory, but my bills are real, my heartbreak is real, my trauma is real, my loneliness is real. How does not one thing help me when I'm lying awake at 3 in the morning with a heart racing?" Let us walk into some very concrete situations and see. Imagine you are lying in bed, mind chasing one anxious thought after another. What if I lose my job? What if I never find life? What if I get sick? What if my family falls apart? Each thought feels solid, heavy, almost physical. Your body reacts as if the disaster were already happening. In that moment, originally not one thing is not telling you to pretend nothing matters. It invites you to turn your attention from the content of the thoughts to their nature. You ask, what is this thought made of? It is made of words, images, sensations in the body. It rises, stays for a while, and then either changes shape or fades. A moment ago you were worrying about your job. How the mind has jumped to your health. If you look closely, the stream of thought is not a row of solid stones. It is more like clouds forming and dissolving in the sky. The sky does not become broken because a dark cloud passes. Originally not one thing means that beneath all these clouds, there is no solid problem thing called your life that is permanently damaged. There is experience arising and passing in awareness. From this recognition, you can still take wise action. You still go to the doctor, update your rhythm, have important conversations. But the one who acts is lighter. You are not acting as a doomed victim trying to repair a fundamentally broken self. You are acting as awareness, expressing care in the world. Or imagine you are stuck in guilt over something you did in the past. Maybe you hurt someone deeply with your words or actions. Even years later, the memory burns. Each time it arises, you think, "I am a terrible person." That sentence feels like a heavy seize in your mind. Here too, originally not one thing, invites you to look deeper. Is there such a fixed object as a terrible person? In that moment in the past, there was a movement of ignorance, fear, or selfishness. That movement led to a harmful action. That action had consequences. All of that is real in the sense of cause and effect. To jump from "I did a harmful action" to "I am a terrible person" is to turn a process into a solid thing. That solid thing then traps you. Originally there is not one thing, that even your guilt is not a thing. It is a recurring pattern in the mind. It rises, tells you a painful story, and subsides. The more you believe the story, the more you give it energy. If instead you see it as a wave, you can say, "Yes, I made mistakes, and I can learn, apologize, and change." A past action does not define a permanent self. Seeing this does not erase responsibility. On the contrary, it finally frees you to take responsibility without being crushed by a chain. You can repair what can be repaired and let go of what cannot, without turning yourself into a stone tablet carved with the words "bad person" forever. Let us look at spiritual practice itself. Any people, once they start practicing, build a new identity. I am a practitioner. I am a seeker. I am someone who is trying to purify my mind. They treat practice as an endless polishing project. Must get rid of all anger. Must get rid of all desire. I must become only compassionate, only wise, only calm. Every time anger rises, they think, "I have failed." Every time desire rises, they think, "I have gone backward." Their spiritual life becomes a war. The more they fight, the more tense they become. In that war, the one thing they never question is the subtle tie that wants to get rid of all these things. that night is treated as obviously real, obviously separate, obviously in charge. Huineng stands in front of this war and says, "Friend, look again." Wants to be pure. Was angry at anger. Was ashamed of desire. Was proud of their compassion. And you turn the light around, you see that this dice is nothing more than a bundle of thoughts and sensations. It has no fixed core. It appears differently in different situations. Sometimes you feel confident, sometimes worthless, sometimes selfish, sometimes generous. Each one is the real you. Originally not one thing means that if you look deeply enough, you never find a central solid entity. What you find is interdependent processes. This does not make you meaningless. It makes you free. Ink of a rainbow appears in the sky, beautiful and vivid. It seems to be in there. You could even point and say, "Look, there is a rainbow." But if you try to grab it, there is nothing to hold. A rainbow exists only due to causes and conditions. Sun, ring, angle of light, your eyes, your praying. Your sense of light is similar, exists as a useful appearance, but it is not a fixed thing. When you treat it as a solid object that can be clean or dirty, you waste your energy. When you see it as a rainbow, you can appreciate it without attachment. At this point, some people get scared. They think, if there is no solid self, then there is no one to love, no one to care, no one to take responsibility. A fear that emptiness leads to nihilism. But look at Huineng's life. Man who said originally not one thing, did not become cold. He spent his life teaching, guiding, helping people see their own nature. His insight into emptiness made him more compassionate, odd-wise. Because when you see that there is no fixed self, you also see that there is no fixed other. The boundaries between me and you become softer. You realize that the suffering you feel inside is not fundamentally different from the suffering in others. Everyone is caught in patterns, stories, identities. Everyone wants to be free. From that recognition, compassion becomes natural, is not a moral duty forced from outside, is the spontaneous movement of a heart that knows its unity with all beings. Let us bring this idea even closer to your daily mental habits. Often do you say these sentences to yourself? This is just how I am. I'm always like this. Will never change. And that type of person. Each of these sentences sounds like self-knowledge, but actually they are forms of ignorance. They turn a fluid, changing process into a fixed thing. It frees your own growth. Originally not one thing is a direct challenge to those sentences. It says, there is no solid always you. There are patterns, but patterns can be seen and changed. Even your deepest tendencies are not made of steel. They are made of repeated choices and conditions. If you cling to I am an anxious person, anxiety will hold you more tightly. If instead you say, anxiety is a strong pattern in my mind right now, but it is not a solid thing. You create a space between awareness and anxiety. In that space, new responses become possible. This is where practice and insight meet. Huineng did not say, since originally there is not one thing, you do not need to do anything. He taught people to see their nature and then to live from it. Seeing your nature means recognizing that at the deepest level, you are not your stories, roles, or patterns. Living from that recognition means letting the insight penetrate your speaking, acting, thinking. For example, if you see that anger is not a solid part of your identity, you do not excuse it as just me. You also do not hate yourself for it. You treat it as energy that rises and passes. You learn to feel it clearly without acting it out blindly. Over time, your relationship with anger changes. You see that your shame is based on a fixed image of yourself as bad, and that image has no real substance. You stop feeding it. You still take responsibility for harm, but you no longer bow to offend and judge in your head. This is the real power of originally not one thing. It dries up the roots of many poisons at once. Let us speak for a moment about destiny. Any people, when they hear teachings about emptiness, think that it means karma and destiny are allusions to. They say, if everything is empty, that nothing matters. That is not how Huineng or any great teacher understood it. Emptiness does not mean things do not function. It means they do not have a fixed, independent essence. Life is empty, but it still cuts. Fire is empty, but it still burns. Or life is empty, meaning it is not fixed. That is exactly why karma works, because things are dependent on causes and conditions. Changing causes and conditions can change outcomes. If you were a solid, unchangeable thing, you could never grow. The fact that originally there is not one thing means that every day there is space for new causes, new choices, new patterns. You are not condemned to be forever he you were yesterday. Every moment of awareness, every act of kindness, every moment of restraint in the middle of anger is planting seeds that will ripen later. Huineng's line is therefore not a license to be careless. It is an invitation to be even more awake in your actions, knowing that they have weight, but that no action has the power to define your essence forever. I want to talk directly to that part of you that feels trapped in your own mind. Maybe you are tired of your endless self-criticism. Maybe you are exhausted by your inner war between who you think you should be and who you seem to be. Maybe you are haunted by mistakes, broken dreams, or lost opportunities. When you hear originally not one thing, you might think, this is too high for me. This is for enlightened people, not for someone who still gets angry in traffic. Consider this. Huineng was not a scholar. He was pounding rice at the back of a monastery, ignored by most. When he heard the teachings of the Diamond Sutra, something in him recognized a truth that had always been there. That same something exists in you, a clear awareness that hears these words right now, that notices your thoughts and reactions. That awareness is not dirty, not broken, not lacking. It has never been anything other than open space. When you get caught in your stories, it seems small. When you relax your grip on them, it reveals its vastness. You do not have to become someone else to touch this. You only have to stop taking every thought and emotion as the final truth about who you are. And next time you are overwhelmed, try a small experiment. Close your eyes for a moment and feel your breath. Thoughts will keep coming. Instead of fighting them, simply ask, what is aware of this thought? And that awareness be seen as a thing. Does it have a shape, a size, a call? Does it get older when your body gets older? When a happy thought passes, does awareness increase? When a sad thought passes, does awareness decrease? If you stay with this gentle questioning, you may notice that awareness is like space. Everything happens in it, but it is not limited by the content. This is a taste of and not one thing. As you cultivate this recognition over time, a subtle shift happens. You begin to live life as the mirror, and more is the space in which mirror and dust appear. You still clean what needs to be cleaned. You still work on your habits, but you no longer believe that dust can define the sky. This is why one line from Huineng can change a life. Not because the words themselves are magical, but because they point to a truth that, once seen, makes it impossible to fully believe your old stories. You might still forget. You might still get lost. But the forgetting will not be complete. Somewhere, you will remember, oh yes, this pain I am feeling is not a solid thing. This identity I am clinging to is not a solid thing. This fear I am obeying is not a solid thing. Originally, before I piled all these labels onto myself and others, there was not one fixed thing. There was just this living, open presence. As we come toward the end of this exploration, I want to leave you with a simple way to bring Huineng's wisdom into your everyday scenes. When you find yourself saying, this is just how I am, pause and add quietly in your heart, or so I have believed until now. When you find yourself saying, I will always be this way, pause and add, only if I keep believing my thoughts without question. When you are crushed under the weight of a story about yourself, ask, What if this story is just one cloud passing in a sky that has never been stained? You do not need to force yourself to believe anything. Just hold the possibility, let it breathe in your chest. And when you sit to meditate, or walk, or watch dishes, occasionally whisper inside, originally not one thing, not as a magic mantra, but as a reminder to soften your grip on everything you have been holding so tightly. You may discover that in the very loosening, in the very act of not clinging, a quiet happiness appears. Not the happiness of getting everything you want, but the happiness of not being trapped by everything you think you are. This long sharing helps you feel even a small opening around your own stories. I would love to hear about it. You can share in the comments how this teaching of originally not one thing finds in your life. Does it scare you, comfort you, confuse you, inspire you? Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly saw that a problem, an identity, or a fear you carried for years was actually less solid than you thought? Your experience might be the mirror another person needs right now to see their own heart more clearly. If you would like to support more long, in-depth explorations like this one, you can subscribe so you do not miss future episodes. Press like so the platform knows that content about awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny matters. And leave a comment so we can keep this conversation alive together. If you feel especially connected to this kind of sharing, you can also consider joining as a member, which helps us keep creating these long scripts that you can use as companions on your own path. Thank you for walking with me through Huineng's simple but revolutionary line. You gradually loosen the grip of all the things you think you are. You see more and more clearly the open, bright nature of your own mind, and may that realization bring you the courage to live with greater freedom, kindness, and peace.
There are moments when you see something, and your heart simply whispers, "This one is meant for me." Bracelet carries more than beads. It carries intention, protection, and quiet strength. Something to guide your thoughts and keep your spirit steady. If you felt that gentle pull toward any of the bracelets shown, the purchase link is waiting in the description, and the full collection is displayed on our channel store. Follow your intuition. It rarely leads you wrong.